So you finally got that awesome bass you've had your eye on. It looks great, it sounds great, but it needs some tweaking to make it more playable. Well, today we're going to walk through everything you need to know to do your own DIY professional setup. So let's get started. My name is Dave Porter, and I've spent nearly 30 years customizing guitars and basses, and I hope this will cover everything you need to know about setting up your bass. A proper setup needs to be done in a specific order because each tweak affects the next. So first we'll look at the nut, then we'll adjust the neck relief, then we'll do the action, and then we'll adjust the intonation. Stay tuned to the end of this video and I'm going to share a hack for setting your pickup height for even and consistent volume across all your strings. So let's take a look at the nut. An improperly cut nut will affect the bass's playability all across the neck, so it's important to start here. It's also the easiest to mess up and the hardest to fix, so it's best left to a professional luthier. If the action off the nut is too high, nothing we do to the neck relief or to the action is going to make the bass play optimally. It will also affect intonation since you're having to press the string further to get a note, which will cause the notes to go sharp. We're looking for a space between the bottom of the string and the first fret of around 0.5 or 0.4 millimeters. So you'll need to get a feeler gauge to make sure you're getting the measurements correct. If you're going to do a DIY, I suggest you get a professional set of nut files like these from Stu Mac. The key here is to make small adjustments. Detune the string, remove it from the nut, file a small amount, keeping the file slightly angled toward the headstock. Replace the string, tune it up to pitch, and check the height. If you file the nut too low, you can repair the slot with a mixture of epoxy and graphite to start the process all over again, but it is a lot easier to just take your time, make small adjustments, and keep measuring. Here's a pro tip. Keep the file at a slight angle so that the strings are angled towards the tuning keys. It will also keep the string's main contact at the front of the nut, which will ensure better intonation. Secondly, we'll adjust neck relief. Because the string vibrates side to side and up and down, we have to adjust for that with a slight bow in the neck. We call this relief. We adjust the neck relief by turning the truss rod to the left to loosen the tension or to the right to add tension. The truss rod is a thin metal shaft that runs from the nut all the way to the heel of the neck. It sits right underneath the fingerboard, and the truss rod helps to stabilize the neck, and it also provides a means to adjust the neck relief. Changing string gauges, temperature, and humidity can all cause the neck relief to change. Some basses are more susceptible to weather than others. Some you'll have to adjust frequently, and others just really stay stable all the time, like my Warwick back here. I'm adjusting this bass's truss rod with a spoke wheel. Other basses have truss rod access at the headstock behind the nut, either exposed like this Fender, or under a cover like my Warwick. Be sure to use the right size hex wrench when making these adjustments. Using the wrong size wrench can strip the threads and cause serious issues down the road with adjusting your truss rod. Like I said, turning the truss rod to the right straightens the neck. Turning it to the left loosens the neck, which provides more relief or more bow in the neck. So I measure neck relief by fretting a string at the first fret, holding the same string down with my elbow at the end of the fretboard, and that allows me to use my right hand to tap the string against the fretboard to gauge the amount of relief. I go for a pretty small distance of about 1 millimeter to 0.75 millimeters, and that's about the thickness of a credit card or a pick. Now that our neck is adjusted, we can set up our action. The action is how high the string sets off the fretboard, and we measure the distance from the bottom of the string to the top of the 12th fret. Like neck relief, I think this is an adjustment you should experiment with to find out what best suits your playing style. If you're doing a lot of slap and tap, you're going to want to lower your string action. Or if you're a heavy-handed rocker that likes to bash out notes like a rock god, you'll probably want to set up your action a little bit higher. I like my action fairly low, with a little bit of buzz when I dig in and play, but none at all when I'm playing soft and legato. Setting your bass up with that little bit of buzz or rasp coming through when you dig in is really some secret sauce when it comes to tone. It's like adding another dimension or dynamic to the note that's literally at your fingertips. If you get your action set too low, it can affect your tone and sustain and just sound like a buzzy mess. So experiment with your setup and find that happy place of being able to play comfortably and getting the tone that you desire. Okay, we adjust the action by turning the hex screws located on the top of each saddle in the bridge. Turning to the right raises the saddle, and turning to the left lowers it. Try to do the same micro adjustments on each side to keep the saddle level. It's good practice to loosen the strings before you raise the saddles, that way you won't strip the screws. Okay, so I use one of these little string action rulers to measure my action. It's got inches on one side, millimeters on the other. As you can tell, I use millimeters, but you can do this simple conversion if you need to. It's just they're more precise for me. I'm measuring the G and the D strings around 1 millimeter. And I'm measuring the A and the E strings closer to 1.25, and this B string is probably closer to 2.5. These are the measurements that work best for me. I really encourage you to find out which ones work best for you. Like I said, if you're more heavy-handed, you might need a higher action and a little bit more neck relief. If you play lighter like me, you can get away with a little bit lower action. Okay, we're almost done, and the last thing we're going to adjust is the intonation. Intonation refers to how accurate the pitch of the fretted note is in comparison to an open string or harmonic. We adjust the intonation by changing the length of the string, and we do that by adjusting the saddles in the bridge either forwards or backwards. Similar to the action, you absolutely have to loosen the string before you make these adjustments. Otherwise, the tension of the string on the saddle won't allow the saddle to move forward or backward. If the fretted note is flat compared to the open string or harmonic, turn the saddle screw to the left or counterclockwise so the saddle moves towards the neck, which shortens the string. If the fretted note is sharp compared to the harmonic or open string, turn the saddle screw to the right or clockwise, so this moves the saddle back and lengthens the string. Alright, so I have this bass on my bench and I'm using my amplitude app as a tuner. The open G and the harmonic G at the 12th fret are in tune, but the fretted G at the 12th fret is flat. To fix the intonation, I'm going to loosen the string and then turn the saddle screw at the end of the bridge to the left or counterclockwise, which moves the saddle forward and shortens the string. I'm lifting up on the string just to make sure it doesn't impede the saddle moving forward. I'll tune the string back up and I'll check the open G versus the fretted G at the 12th fret again. This time it was still a little bit flat versus the harmonic or the open string. You can see it's just a little bit flat. So I'm going to detune the string. I'm going to make one more small adjustment. Just a little bit. And make sure it's not getting caught. You really have to make sure those saddles are moved forward as far as they're going to go. I'm going to retune the string. And then I'll check the fretted note again. And this time, hey, we're in perfect tune. So our intonation is set and we're good to go. Changing the action or the height of the string always affects your intonation, so it's a good idea to check it after making those adjustments. Hey, one final hack I want to share with you is about pickup height. We measure the pickup height by holding the string down at the last fret and measuring the distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the pickup. On the bass side, or the B and the E strings, we're looking at about 4 millimeters, and on the high strings, the G string or the C string, if you're playing a 6 string, we're looking at about 3.5 or 3 millimeters. These measurements vary with pickup manufacturers, so check your specific pickups recommendations. If the pickups are set too close to the string, the magnets can pull the string out of tune, and it can cause weird artifacts in your sound, so be sure and set it up correctly. Check this out. So years ago, I was in the studio doing a session with an engineer that pointed out during playback that my low notes were really hitting the compressor hard. He showed me the meter before gain reduction, and they were really pegging out on my low notes, but they weren't really hitting the meter much on the higher notes. So I grabbed a screwdriver and used that meter to make small adjustments in the pickup height that really made a huge difference in leveling out my tone. So how you do this is pretty simple. Really, you're trying to level out the lower string side of the pickup versus the high side. And so I'm playing the G string on my 5-string bass as compared to the B and the E string. You can use any meter for this, whether it's a compressor or a VU meter. I'm using my Universal Audio Console the VU on the console just to kind of see how loud the G string is compared to that B and E string. And so I might lower the bass side of both pickups just slightly more than the pickups manufacturer suggestions, just to kind of get that sound more level. Just looking at the VU meter, just trying to bring it down so that it's about the same volume as the G string. It's not a big adjustment. These are really small micro adjustments making to the pickup. But it does make a huge difference. That way those lower notes aren't just crashing the compressor and everything's a little bit more even. All right, that's it. We're done, and your bass is set up exactly the way you want it, just like a pro would do. Hey, I really hope you found value in this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.